right, welcome back. Okay, so tonight I'm a little bit better organized this time. I don't know, for those of you who saw my last two live feeds, that first one was just I was just kind of doing an experiment. I was trying to figure some things out on my platform. And then that second one, I just figured, I might as well do a live stream, but I wasn't very prepared. I didn't really have many topics. So tonight's show, hopefully it'll be a little bit more organized. I went ahead, put together some notes here. I've gone over kind of gone through the politics, see what's going on in our current events, and looks like a whole lot of nothing. So you're probably wondering, well, then why are you asking everyone to top off your preps? And honestly, my feeling has always been that usually that's when it comes. Like if anything ever happens, it'll be when you least expect it. And I mean, looking back on at least the time I've been alive and the time that I've seen things happen, nobody was really predicting it. Nobody was talking about it happening. And all the times where people were saying this, whatever situation, this next event is imminent, it's right around the corner, it never materializes. Like for instance, I mean, nobody could have predicted, 24 years ago or 23, however long it's been since 9/11, that, a bunch of planes would get hijacked and flown into a building. So nobody could have predicted that. Had somebody even brought that up, they would have looked at you like you were insane. So same thing with the COVID thing. Nobody, I mean, maybe there were some people like in the fringes talking about some stuff like that, but there's so many different scenarios in the purview of what could happen. You can just get kind of swooped up in it, and in my opinion, the best thing you can do is just prepare for what you think is most likely to happen. Let me make sure here. Hold on. Let's see if my camera just cleared the lens here real quick. Sorry about that. It's just looking a little hazy. I'm going to try to get some light on. That's too much light. All right. So it looks like some people are tuning in. Welcome if you're just joining us. The topic for tonight was topping off your preps. I mean, this is something that we should all be doing at least once a month, especially if you're getting really low on your preps. But I think what happens is that we have so many different facets of prepping. Like you have batteries, you have communications, you have your defensive weapons, you have your food, your medicine, and a lot of times it's hard to kind of keep track of all that stuff, and certain areas can get depleted because, like a good prepper, we're cycling through our preps. We're not just putting stuff up on a shelf and letting it get stale. So we are using it, and sometimes it's easy to forget about certain things, and then when it comes time that you need it, that prep is already depleted. So it's important to kind of go through your preps, and even more importantly, to create like a notebook. My wife actually created these. This is one here, and then this is the other one. And they basically, one is like a checklist of our supplies, like food and like bug out supplies, stuff like that, like inventories. And then the other one is like different contingency, like plans that we have in place, depending on whatever situation is unfolding. So we have different plans based on like if people are away from home and what we're gonna do, what like frequencies we're gonna be communicating on if, say, cell phones go down or something like that. So all that stuff is in place, is basically written down here. So everybody's pretty much informed on what we're going to do if something is going to happen. So it's just a good thing to do. Put together one of these books yourself. I'm thinking I might just make I don't know, a dozen or so of these, just kind of generic, and list them on my eBay store. So if any of you guys are interested in something like that, we can just make one of these pre-made emergency preparedness checklists. And what's cool about these, and I don't know what happened to the pens here, but we have like dry erase. Is it dry erase or wet erase markers? Sorry, I can't find them now. But basically, there's just markers that go kind of hand in hand with these books, and you can go through and the lists are all laminated, and so you can go through with these wet erase markers and just check box the stuff you have, the stuff you need, the quantity that you're going to need, and stuff like that. So it's just a good thing to have to kind of keep you organized and make sure that when something does happen, that you don't come down to where you're keeping your preps and you're depleted in certain areas. So just a good thing to do. Let's see here. So yeah, I just been super busy lately. For those of you who know, I am a painting contractor, so I am like deep into my painting season. Obviously, most of what my job consists of is just painting exteriors of houses. So that's where most of the money is. So when the summer months come, spring and summer months, I'm just busy. I'm just trying to get as much work done as I can to kind of get as much money as I can for the winter. When the winter, it always slows way down in the winter, and so I try to get as much money as make as much money as I can throughout the summer, and then hopefully coast through the winter, so long as not too many emergencies come up. But last winter was really tough because, one, I didn't make a whole lot of money, mainly because I just got too busy with projects around the house and I got complacent with work, and I just didn't book as many jobs as I should have. And and then we had a bunch of emergencies come up with like vehicles, like both my car and my wife's car like went down, and I replaced a transmission twice, and tires, shocks, exhaust, like everything you can think of. I replaced on vehicles. So it was a brutal winter last winter, but we made it through, and so we're doing good now. But like I said, it is my busy season, so I'm trying my best to try to get videos out. The good news is that by the time the winter comes around, I'll have a lot more time to start making more videos. So I'm excited. I have a lot more gear. I've been ordering a lot more gear lately. I just haven't had the time to do videos on it. But one of the things I just got, which I'm super excited about, is this huge duffel bag. And originally I got it to keep clothes on, or keep my clothes in, so like when we go on big family vacations, I can just pack everything into my duffel bag. And what I liked about this duffel bag is that the center area is like really big. I have a picture of it on the thumbnail of this live feed, but the center area is really big, so I can keep all my pants and my shirts and my sweatshirts, because usually like you go to pack, and it's always like if you have to bring jackets and sweatshirts, your jackets and your sweatshirts always take up the bulk of the space. So and then it hardly leaves any room for like other things like your socks and your shoes and shorts, underwear, stuff like that. So this bag, I think, is pretty much going to be able to do it all. Has like a big, massive center cargo area for all that stuff, my pants and jackets and stuff. And then it has smaller compartments that go all the way around the bag for my shirts and socks and everything. So, but I was looking at it, and it's such a cool bag. I thought, God, this probably could have a lot of different uses. So, Right now I have it set up as like a Minuteman loadout bag. So I just wanted to see how much, really how much it would weigh, how much gear I could pack in there, and if it even made sense. You know, I didn't, it seems almost a little, uh, it just almost a little ridiculous because it's so big, but I don't know, it seems to be working out, seems to be pretty practical. I mean, I'll show you in a video I'm going to be doing here pretty soon, how I have it set up. But in the main compartment of the bag, I have my plate carrier, uh, my combat belt. I have, what else did I get in there? I got some medical kits, some medical stuff in the front there. What else? I think there's like, I have like a gas mask in there. So there's some, you know, chemical weapon kind of defense stuff in there. Um, and then in the side pouches, I'm keeping like some extra holsters, stuff like that. So anyways, yeah, I'm right now, I'm still trying to kind of put it all together, trying to create a system out of it, and so that I can kind of do a video on it. But it's also because I want to actually have a plan like this in place, because the kind of the evacuation plan that we have in place for our family right now is more centered towards, like, you know, say there's a fire in our area, because we live kind of far out in the woods, and so that's pretty much would be the most um, uh, common thing to happen, would be like a fire, and that's why we would have to evacuate. So the one evacuation plan that we have in place is more geared towards that and just getting the family out of the house, you know. So it's basically, we have our clothes. I already have all this stuff packed up, ready to go, and it may, and the evacuation plan is pretty much consists of like totes, that are full of stuff. So the kids have a tote that has, they each have a change of clothes, and there's like some comic books, like entertainment stuff like that for them, just to kind of keep them busy. And then we have our bag with all of our important like documents, like birth certificates, social security cards, family heirlooms, pictures, stuff like that. um, and then just kind of our most expensive stuff. But anyways, I wanted to kind of put a plan together that incorporated some, like, some stuff that would address like a more serious evacuation in case there was more of a threat, um, outside, that would be presenting itself. So that's why I thought, you know, I might want to think about putting more of a defense strategy, or putting a plan together that is more, has more, a little bit more emphasis on like defense. So bringing in weapons and stuff like that. So anyways, I'm working on that video now. It's a lot of stuff. And so that's the other thing I want to make sure, is that all this stuff can fit in the back of my wife's Tahoe. So, you know, before I just go and like start compiling a bunch of gear, I want to make sure that it's even is reasonable. But I can tell you right now that, like, that the bag right now is easily 100 pounds. I can barely pick it up, so it's basically, you know, something that I do not plan on carrying more than 30 feet, you know, more from like, I don't want to be carrying this bag, you know, any further than from like the room into the back of the car. So, um, but you know, my philosophy with that, I mean, I always get like a lot of comments on my videos where people are just concerned with like, yeah, it's just way too much gear. And my philosophy is always like, it's better to start out with a lot, you know, if whatever the situation is, you just know that, hey, I got to get out of here. It seems to me, I'll tell you right now, I mean, if I have the option of getting out in a vehicle versus on foot, I'm going to choose the vehicle. But if it turns out, you know, that there's traffic or something and you have to flee that video and you have to be on foot, well then, and then you go from there. But you don't want to start out, as stripped down as minimally as possible. It's better to, in my opinion, to just start out, grab as much stuff as you think you can, you can fit, as you'll be comfortable. And as the situation or whatever that you're in unfolds, to jettison that equipment or that gear, based on whatever situation you find yourself in. So, I mean, it's no problem at all. Like, if I see the situation presenting itself, and it's like, okay, we're going to have to abandon our vehicle and we're going to have to be on foot. Well, I have the gear in the vehicle to do that stuff. And now, obviously, there's going to be a bunch of gear that we're just going to have to jettison and walk away from. Obviously, that's like absolute worst case scenario. I can't even really fathom what kind of a situation that that would present itself where my family and I would have to be doing something like that, like packing our vehicles full of gear and heading to a more remote area. All I can kind of do is speculate. It would have to be some type of total invasion of the country, and being in a house with a road and an address is probably not your best bet, and so you're trying to get away from being so I don't know what's the word, like, available to a bad situation. So, but who knows, crazier things have happened, throughout history. So it's better to be safe than sorry. Yeah, and if you haven't done so, if you enjoy these live feeds, go ahead and hit the alarm notification on your phone if you can, and that should update you. I mean, I'm not pretty sure how that's how it works. There should be like a little bell symbol, and you just hit that and just turn the notifications on, so that way, when I come live or I do a video, it notifies you, so you don't miss these feeds. But yeah, like I said, I'm just been super busy. I'm just hoping that I can complete the jobs I have on the books right now. I'm almost getting late in the season right now. We're like almost at the end of July, and I have like 3 huge jobs. So, well, hopefully we have a long fall and I can get everything done that I need done. Oh, let me see. You know what? My chats aren't even on. Hold on. Okay. Now I see everybody. Fire, exposed to radiation, Teresa Buchanan. Hello, sorry, I didn't have my chats on. I don't know if you guys have been talking for very long, but sorry, I probably should have done this earlier. No. Okay. Just listening. All right. Yeah, I'm exposed to radiation. I think we all are every day with these phones. It worries the hell out of me. I was listening to this video today about this doctor was talking about cancers and kind of the different things that cause cancers. Oh, thank you. Here, I'll show you some more. And basically what cancer is essentially is just cells. I'm probably going to do a terrible job explaining it, but it's just your body's like your cell, like different cells that are just mutating or breaking apart, and for whatever reason. But this one physician was saying, who had done a lifetime of research on it, was saying the medical community, and this is the thing with the medical community, and I'm not, I have my own experience with it as a patient, with having had like a chronic illness for a long time. So I got a little bit of a glimpse of a glimpse on how it kind of works. But you know, the thing with a lot of the medical industries is they yeah, that I'll touch on that in a minute. But with the medical community is they reach these consensuses, right, on like whatever the ailment is, and then they just put all their focus and emphasis on treating that illness that way. So for instance, the the general consensus on cancers is that it's hereditary, and so therefore all the treatment that they invest in is all based with that in mind, on like hereditary, you know, treatments that are based on that, on just being heritable. Same thing with like, okay, so like I got for instance, I got, you know, I had ulcerative colitis for 7 years, and it just it was deteriorating my body like rapidly. And the doctors would all say the one thing that they'd say, we don't know where it started. Well, actually what they'd always say, they say it with every illness that they don't understand, they always say it's hereditary. It's like the first sign that you know that they're just whatever, they've given up. So they're like, oh yeah, it's hereditary. We don't know what causes it or how to cure it. We just know that it's hereditary. So it's like, okay, a lot of good that does me. And then they say, and then the next thing they say is that your diet has nothing to do with it. Your diet will not help you. And it's just a bunch of crap, you know? It's just a bunch of crap. Whether they know it's crap is beyond me. It's hard for me to believe that they wouldn't know that it's crap, especially when you have people like me that did go the path of the diet and then come back and like show them that it was cured after 7 years of using all their different medications. You know, I can come back and they're like, wow, your colitis is healed. What, you know, or what medication are you on? And I'm like, I'm not on any. I'm just not eating certain foods, and I started introducing different foods to my diet. So, sorry, I kind of got off on a tangent there. It was talking about the radiation thing. So, but where was I going with this? Sorry, hold on. Just checking my notes here real quick. But yeah, so just one thing to kind of incorporate into your preps is try to be as healthy as possible. I mean, if we ever do end up in a situation where we're relying on all like this food in the back, we cycle through it, a lot of it as a family, like all the rice and flour and sugar and salt and beans and everything that are in these 5-gallon buckets, which is basically that consists of like the, you know, the foundation of our meals, right? So you have a meal and it pretty much consists of mostly carbs and protein, and or, you know, a bulk thing like carbs or potatoes, or rice, potatoes, bread, and then you would incorporate some proteins, preferably like sourcing meat, chicken, fish, or if you have to, beans. So we do cycle through that stuff through the 5-gallon buckets. You know, I go to a lot of trouble to kind of do that, because most people will just, they get the 5-gallon Mylar bags, and sorry, let me what's up, Crypto Rick? Yeah. Sorry, just reading the preps there, or reading the messages. I got this little loaner phone here. I'm gonna see if I can get get my yeah, it's not gonna show. Oh, here it is. See if I can get see if I can read the chats from right here. I got like a an extra phone. My wife handed it to me. I keep that there. Hopefully the screen doesn't go off. Now I can read the preps. Okay, pest control. Yeah, I'm having a situation with mice actually, and they are getting it, and that's why I'm trying to like all the stuff that like all the food that's in cardboard, especially like this top ramen here. Look, see, he's already got into it. See that hole? He's just, yeah, the mice are getting to this stuff. So if you have top ramen, I mean, this is part of your storage, and you have a mouse. I didn't have mice issues in here for like a year. And then all of a sudden, in the last 4 months or so, they just showed up. And I don't even know how they're getting up onto these top shelves because there's no, I don't know how they're getting up there because I know they can't jump that high because I catch them in 5-gallon buckets all the time, and they can't get out. We're just talking about topping off preps. Eventually I'll get to it, but that is the basis of the show. But right now we're talking about rodent control. So I just set up a mouse trap up there, like on a little game trail that he's been feeding on. And so hopefully I can catch this mouse, but I put out poison, which something ate the poison. So some of these mice I know didn't make it. I killed a lot with mouse traps, and but I'm kind of running out of options because the only way I can even think that they're getting in here, because when I built this pantry, like I made it pretty airtight. Like I have 2 weather strips on either side. There's a door here and a door here, and I have weather stripping on the bottom of both doors. Yeah. So I don't think they're getting through under the doors, although they could be. I think it's possible. I don't know. I'm going to have to kind of... My first order of business is just trying to block off all the entry points in here. So that would be my first thing, because if I could just keep them out, then then I don't have to worry about it, trying to kill them. But when I first built this pantry, like that was what I had in mind the whole time I was making the pantry was, rodent proofing it, making sure that, there were no mice could get in here. And so everything was sealed up really well, but somehow they figured out a way. Yeah, so we had such a bad mouse issue on this side of our house. There's a room over here, like a big room downstairs. So the way our house is situated, it's kind of subterranean. It's built up on a hill, and so I'm on the lower portion. So back here is underground, which is nice for a pantry because it keeps everything cool. And then over here is a garage, and over here is another room, and then on that side is the outside. So it keeps, because of that. And then I have a concrete floor. We're on a slab. So because of all this, it keeps this room just like a neutral temperature throughout the year. So it's good in that regard. But because we live way out in the woods, yeah, we have mice issues, they just get in here. So there's a few things I'm going to do around the outside of the house to keep them just out of the house in general. And then some things I'm going to do in here. But like I was saying, our mouse issue was so bad last summer or last winter, and I just finished fixing all this, but they got into the ceiling in this room over here, and they just took it over. So I'd gone down there, and every so often, oh wow, thank you, I appreciate that. and I literally was on my last mouse trap, and it's like a cheap one. I'm just gonna show you here. Look at this. See, there's the mouse trap right there, and there's all of his droppings right there. So, and then they've been getting over here. They're all getting back there. So, yeah, it's just something I got to deal with. I'm not too worried because most of the food in here is all in is all sealed up in containers. So, but yeah, eventually at some point I'm gonna have to do something about it. But yeah, so that room just got totally taken over, and every so often, when we first bought the house, it was like 4 years ago, this downstairs room, yeah, I'll use glue boards. I didn't want to do it because it seemed really inhumane, but I'm getting so sick of these mice that I don't even care how they die. At this point, I'm sick of them ruining my house because it's cost me thousands of dollars the damage they've done. So when we first bought the house into this room, we could smell urine, and we thought that it was maybe because the original owners had dogs, and the dogs, maybe they had them in the downstairs room and they were peeing. But then every few months you'd get this like odor of urine again, and I'm thinking like, where is this coming from? Like, that is just so strange. And so I started kind of like sniffing around, and I got up on like a ladder and started smelling near the one of the can lights that was in the ceiling, and I could smell the urine coming from the light, and I knew immediately. I was like, oh no. Yeah. And so I was like, oh no, they gotta go. And there's mice in here, there's mice in the ceiling. And so I'm like, well, it's got to come out. And so I grabbed punch a hole in the ceiling, the first bay that I exposed, I pull it down. And I mean, it was like that thick of mouse droppings. And like the insulation was just totally saturated, like chewed up and nested. And then as I'm pulling it down, it was like a metropolitan of mice. I had like mice, live mice, dead mice, baby mice, and nests like falling down on me. And it was like a horror movie. And I had like a vacuum because I'm trying to vacuum it, and all I could do is just vacuum. I was literally vacuuming up mice like alive. Yeah, it was bad. And then the smell was so bad, so I had to I put a mask, I had a respirator on, and the smell was terrible. So it took like 2 days to demo that. And so then I get all the my stuff out of there, and then I had to shellac the whole ceiling. And if you guys are familiar with shellac, it's like an alcohol-based primer. And yeah, it's an alcohol-based primer. And it's like the only thing that will actually seal in odor. So if you ever have like a fire or something, a lot of times they'll use shellac to seal in the odor. So I had to shellac the whole ceiling, like the frame, all the joists and subfloor and everything. And then I realized as I start inspecting it more that these mice had like chewed through the wiring, and one of the main wiring that they chewed through a lot, and one of the main wiring was the wire to our yep, I guess so. One of the main wires was the wire to the well. So we lost power to our well. Like, these mice literally shut off our water. So that's how destructive mice can be. Yeah, so that's interesting you say that. So I almost forgot that part of it. So the reason why that's what happened, that was was one of the culprits in all of this that really um, facilitated that mice infestation was a squirrel. So a squirrel, because so when I opened it, the people who originally built the house just made a lot of huge mistakes. So first of all, there was like literally the space in between the ground, so the crawl space of the house was totally exposed to the ceiling. And I'll get to you in 1 second. The crawl space was totally exposed into the ceiling, so there was a squirrel coming in, and I guess the squirrel was found all the dog food from the original owners, and there was a whole bay in our ceiling was just full of dog food. It was like a 50-pound sack of dog food. So the mice, this is a bot, yeah, probably get a lot of them. So the mice and the squirrel were just, working together, and the squirrel was stockpiling their food, and the mice probably had there's probably like 100 generations of mice that lived in that ceiling. So anyways, yeah, I got it all sealed up and got all those areas blocked off. So hopefully they don't find their way back in there, because it was expensive to redo, to do all that work, the electrical. I did a lot of it. A lot of it I couldn't do, like hanging the sheetrock. I can do texturing and stuff like that, but like hanging a 10-foot, what is it, 5/8 piece of sheetrock, that's just totally out of my purview. So, but that's all done, and yeah, now the mice have come back, and I think what happens when you start killing mice is that you kill off all the stupid ones first. Is there somebody doing something? I probably need to make somebody a moderator on this so they can start getting rid of people. But what was I saying? So yeah, when you start trying to kill mice, you end up killing off the dumb ones first, and then you're left with the smart ones. The ones that know how know to avoid traps. And I think that's where I'm at right now in this pantry with this this ongoing war with the mice. Yeah, it's rough work for sure. So hopefully we'll get. I'll be able to just keep the mice out of the house. I don't want to be perfecting the art of killing them. I'd rather perfect the art of keeping them out. Okay. I got to figure out how to mod somebody. So okay. Anyway, so moving on from the mouse subject. Sorry, kind of got off the topic there, but obviously, so tonight's kind of the thing that I wanted to emphasize was just topping off preps. And the way I do that, for those of you just joining the channel, is I keep together like these books where I have not only our like evacuation plans and the plans we have in place as a family, but I also have inventories of all the food I keep in here, and stuff like that. And then I just keep everything organized with wet erase markers, because the lists are all on how many ammunition to store. I don't know. I assume you mean ammunition. But as far as topping off preps, I think most people tend to do it when like they'll, turmoil starts getting a little crazier in the country. And then people start taking, their prepping a little bit more seriously. And then they'll come down to their pantry, like right after they hear that there's food shortages. And then they start, taking inventory, which is always, hey, whenever you're taking inventories when you're taking inventory, but it's really a good idea to do it before stuff happens. Take advantage of the prices of things before panic sets in. I did learn we did learn this lesson the hard way as a family once. A few years ago when we were going through all those crazy food shortages. Yeah, right on. Right on. Thanks, Crypto Rick. I knew a guy named, it was like his name was Crypto Joe for years, and he was like a crypto expert. He had like a show on, I think he had a show on YouTube for a while. Yeah, see, my ADD will kick in. I read these comments and then see I'm about to start talking about crypto. But it's always good to get your, to keep your inventory topped off. Don't let, obviously, because we're cycling through these preps, things are going to, things are going to get low. You're going to get low in supply, short in supply. And so you just don't want to make it too short in supply. And then, make sure that, because obviously when you have a pantry like this, you're going to have, and you have a big family, you're going to have people coming through here and just grabbing stuff. And they're not going to be taking inventory. It's up to me, which it should be up to one person. You kind of elect one person to be in charge of it. And you just make sure that you have a system in place for, for instance, and this is where this caught me, when one of these buckets is depleted, that we take the empty bucket and we put it by the door so I know that it's empty and I need to go refill it. So a few years ago when we were going through those food shortages, and I don't know if you guys remember, but it was so weird, dude. Like, you would see things on in the stores, like certain items would disappear, and then for like really no reason, it would be like all of a sudden there was like a shortage on, I don't know, like certain beans. And then there would be you couldn't find any pinto beans. And then there's like there was a shortage on flour. There was a shortage on rice. There was a shortage, and they were not always together. Sometimes I remember going to Costco and there was like no rice, no flour. And, but the worst one was there was a flour shortage. And, yeah, prepping dog food is always a good one. But we went through a flour shortage. And so I'm going to make sure that we're good on flour. And I came down here and the buckets, this is before we had the system, my flour buckets were like all empty. And I just about blew a gasket. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. We're in there's no flour, to be had at the store. And all my flour buckets were empty. And it's because, and it's kind of my mistake, is both my wife and I, but my wife makes bread. She makes a lot of bread. And so because of that, we use a lot of flour. And we just weren't communicating with each other. And so she'd come down, grab flour to make bread, out of a bucket, and then just put the bucket back. So it was a bad communication, and I came down and all the flour buckets were empty, and that was bad. And then and then the dumbest thing I did I don't know if it was too dumb, but so I'm going to the grocery stores every day, like early in the morning, to see if there's inventory. And the first store that gets flour in, like I buy up all the flour. Not all the flour, but I think there was like 6 bags. I bought like 5. But it was like the worst flour, and I was thinking like, oh god, I have to buy this kind of just really cheap low grade flour. And so I ended up with like whatever 300 pounds of terrible flour. And so now we're stuck. Huh, interesting. I didn't hear that. Yeah, the gold, that is a kind of a good brand. um Yeah, and there's different flours that my wife uses. So we do like wheat flour to make wheat, for the kids. Then we just do like regular white bleach flour, stuff that we make the bulk of our bread with. And then she uses bread flour for making certain types of bread. I think you have to use bread flour, like if you want to make pizza crust, pizza dough, stuff like that. So, but my wife just makes sourdough bread. Like pretty much all of the bread food that she makes, like muffins, pizza dough, are the sandwich bread, and then all the way down to sourdough rounds and everything. It's all sourdough. So sourdough cookies and everything, sourdough pancakes, sourdough waffles. And I don't know if you guys know, but sourdough is just better for you. It's better for your intestines, better for your gut. So we eat a lot of sourdough. But so that's the system we put in place. I just wanted to make it really easy. I'm like, from now on, even when we start working out of a bucket, I just tell my wife, like, once you start working out of a bucket, just put it next to the door and work out of it until and I'll just check it and make sure that those buckets don't just go empty. So moving on. So yeah, so the other things that I kind of included in topping off your preps is like, and that includes like adding to your gear. So there was some things that I added this week. I bought a little inverter for my truck because I have a really old truck. Just has the cigarette lighters. So, and I had like no way of charging my cell phone in there because it's hard to buy like cigarette phone chargers. So I ended up just buying a power inverter, and then I can take my cell phone charger with me and charge it that way. And then just run like other stuff from the inverter. So I bought one of those. It was super cheap. It was like, I think it was like $13 or something. And then I got some splints. I don't know. This is like during the Amazon days when everything was on sale. So I got a couple things for the medical supply. So like this was actually one of my first medical bags. I've had it for a while, but in here, I just got some splints. So I actually got like a 3-pack of splints. These are aluminum splints. I think I got 3 of them for like $6.99 or something. So awesome deal on those. And then what else did I get? I know I got some more prepping related stuff, but boy. Oh, I bought moringa. So I don't know if you guys ever take this, but moringa, this is like really good stuff. So I used to take like a multivitamin. I used to do like a multivitamin pack. So C, D, zinc, all that stuff. And I got to a point where this is like pretty much all I take now. Because essentially all I was really trying to accomplish was just boosting my immunity during flu season. And I'll tell you that the moringa is like the best stuff. So there's a lot of pretty powerful testimonies on moringa. So for those who have any type of skin issues like eczema, also I know like arthritis, it's really good. It's cured people's arthritis completely. Like people who suffer from crippling arthritis, it's just cured that. And these were like people who were on, you know, medication, like pills that were costing them thousands of dollars a year to be on these pharmaceutical grade arthritic medications. And then they came across moringa and it just cured, you know, for $10 a bottle, or what, $20 a bottle. And that bottle will last me like 2 months easily. These people were, you know, curing their arthritis. So yeah, it's a good product. So the other things, it's good to revisit. It's just evacuation strategies. So like I said, that's one of the things I'm working on right now, is just I'm creating an evacuation strategy that has a little more emphasis on defense. So I'm going to be doing a video on that here pretty soon. The other thing, just making sure that you're cleaning your equipment. So like keeping your rifles and your pistols all clean, and just making sure that they fire straight, you know, to make sure that you're just making sure that your ammo is still good and you can shoot straight and your equipment's running smooth. As far as training, I see like there's a lot of guys that are into training. I mean, obviously, I don't have the time to do it. I actually was doing it for a while, and there are some stories with it. I just didn't really like the groups that I found myself in with a lot of these firearm training groups, and some of the camaraderie. It can be a little dangerous. I mean, and when I say that, I mean that like they get, a lot of these groups get infiltrated by people who are trying to, you know, basically paint you, you know, make you look bad, or set you up or frame you. So that's all I'll say about that. It's just one of those things where if you're going to go and do stuff like that, just be very careful and conscious of that. Hold on. I'm going to make sure hits. Yeah. So Crypto Rick, it says, if it hits and you can get moringa, fish oil is where it's at. Stock up on fish and oil is what I like. So stocks of fish and oils. Oh, so stocks and fish. So stocks of fish and oil is what I like. Stocks of fish. I hope I read that right. You hate sourdough. Buy wheat berries and grind them. Huh. I wish I could do that. Those grinders are expensive. Those things are like $300 or something. You talking about like those stone grinders that grind the wheat berries? Yeah, then where do you get stocks of canned fish? Okay. Yeah, I actually do stock a lot of it. I don't really typically like eating fish very much. Okay. Yeah, I'll look into that. I'd love to be able to grow it if I could, but yeah. Yeah, I do stock up a lot of like fish. So I have a lot of sardines here. Got a lot of sardines. I know it's super good for your heart. It's super good for your brain. So definitely it's a good thing to stock up on. you know, definitely a lot better. I mean, I have a lot of canned chicken and stuff like that, you know, which is okay, but a lot of the that processed meat, it tends to just be like, you know, packed full of sodium. And you know, depending on what your health situation's like, I mean, the sodium can affect your joints. I know a lot of people have issues with just too much salt, too much sodium in their diet, kind of hurts them. Electric grinder. We have an electric grinder, don't we? We have a meat grinder. And we actually have, I have this old school grinder. And this is like, it clamps to the table. You know, this is old school. And then you just grind it that way. So that's, yeah, we'll be using that one when things get really bad, I guess. You can store wheat berries just like beans. Really? I didn't know that. Well, I wonder how much, so like it would come. So I'm assuming that like wheat berries comes in what, like a 50-pound sack, and then you put it in a bucket, and then I'm curious, like, and then how much flour does that translate to? Like a 50-pound sack of wheat berries translates into how many, how how much flour? Yeah. You know, I've been having, so one of the issues that we're having in our area, it's pretty annoying, is that when we first moved here, there weren't a lot of people living here, and there were a lot of deer, a lot of turkey, and it was easy to hunt. It was easy to hunt everything that was here. And now we have a lot of people coming in, like a lot of rich people moving in to the area. And the worst is like we have these weekend warrior people. So they, hi from South Africa. We have people that just come up on the weekends and they're just they're riding their dirt bikes everywhere and just shooting, like they're shooting their ARs, like you can basically tell they're shooting their ARs because they've come from a blue state where they've been totally deprived of their freedoms and the ability to like express, you know, express themselves in any way other than just being a total degenerate. So that, you know, they're like, wow, freedom, and the first thing, you know, they want to do is just start mag dumping, you know, their ARs into the ground, and so you're just constant gunfire on the wheat. I mean, it's constant. Sometimes it's like you'd think you're like living in a war zone. There's that much gunfire going off where we are. And it's just the downside to it is it's chased a lot of the wildlife away. Yeah, we've considered it. It's just getting really busy here. I could tell more stories about that, but anyways, the gunfire and all the dirt biking and everything, I mean, you know, it's just, I don't mind it from the standpoint of that. Like, hey, you know, I mean, I it's good that everybody's got weapons here and they're all fire, you know, they're using them. But the downside is that it's totally chased the wildlife away. They've also bought up a lot of the property, so a lot of the public like land has been getting gobbled up. So I actually got yelled at today for my daughter and I went on an ATV ride, and some guy came flying behind us and like started saying, you know, I caught you on my game trail and you're on private property. And I'm like, what? Like, had no idea. I'm like, if I was, like, it was for maybe a second. Like, because we started out in public land. I mean, I know because the trailhead has a public land, uh, you know, entrance advisory board. And so maybe at some point I crossed into his land, and it's like the other thing that struck me is like, would it like, I mean, does it really bother you that much if like a dad and his daughter just ride their ATV and just happens to go through your land for a second? It's not like I was hunting on his land. I mean, it was kind of, and then I was thinking like, are you that bored? Like, I was like wondering, is this guy just monitoring his trail cams from like his house all day? Because we were only out there for like maybe 10 minutes, and then this guy was like in his vehicle and like on the way to come and yell. But luckily, I kept my cool. I was kind of sitting there, you know how you get when you have some other guy yelling at you, and but like I swear that stuff always happens when I have like one of my kids with me, and I can't say anything. And luckily, I mean, it was sitting. I had to really bite my tongue. Hello from Wyoming. Anyways, I kept my mouth shut, and I was just like, "All right, buddy, you know, I'll try not to. I'll try not to drive through your one of your 5,000 acres. I don't know. I mean, there's trails everywhere. There's trailheads all over the place, and yeah, exactly. So, anyways, yeah, I've been looking into other areas. The thing is that we share the property where I live. Yeah, the area where the homestead that we're on, share it. My wife and I we share it um, with my family, with my so there's two homes on the property. It's a 5 acre piece of property, and we have two homes on the property. They're for like the summer months, like maybe half the year they're here, and then the other half the time um, they're down at their main house in California. So if we want to leave, it's not that easy of a situation because there's two parties involved, but so that makes it an issue. It made it easy, obviously, and more affordable to split a property together. Yeah, it's nice. um and that's just something that maybe you have to think of. It's something that we kind of had to do when our um is that we needed the land, but at the time, we needed the land because our family was growing, and we needed to be more spread out because the house we were living in before, which my wife and I own, we rent it out now, and the rent actually covers our share of the house payment and everything here. Um, was a tiny house. It was just like a little 2 bedroom house, and we just outgrew it when our third child came. We were like, okay, well now we got to get to a bigger house, and it was like no yard. It was just a front yard, and the house was like on a highway, so just wasn't a good situation for kids and a family and a prepping. Remember, I had like I always had these. My biggest fear when we were living at that house. This is a house up in um, the top. The was just sharing that border with Canada, because you think like Canada, right? It's like a nice, safe place. You don't have to worry about anything. And I'm like, no, they're like Trudeau's lunatic. I could just, and my fear was that they would, really bad migration, not of Canadians, but of the migrants that Canada accepts, which is like way worse. Just pouring through and then coming down the highway systems. And I don't know if you guys ever saw those videos where they just had these like migrants coming through and they were throwing rocks at trucks, at semi rigs to try to get them to crash. And then they would, and then they would just fall upon them and just rip the driver out and pull, steal all the cargo. So that was what I was seeing. And they were just basically just taking over the highway systems and terrorizing everybody. So that was one of my fears, especially living on the highway and close to the border. And a lot of people think that like that's crazy, but I can tell you firsthand because when we first rented that house out, the person who we rented to was a border patrol agent, and I asked him once. I was like, "So how's what's going on with the border?" And he just like looked at me, like shook his head, like it's the word he was saying like is the absolute worst he's ever seen it. And he's talking about the northern border. A lot of people don't even realize this, and he's like, yeah, it's just there's so much corruption, it's unbelievable. So they were having, and there were two people that I actually testified to this. The other one was a truck driver, a friend of mine who used to live here, and he drove he delivered food to there was a restaurant up there, at the border there, and there was a hotel that he would deliver to from time to time. And he said that one of the hotels had been completely taken over by a cartel, and they actually had like cartel members like walking around like patrolling the interior of the hotel with like with ARs basically. So yeah, it's insane. People are like, really, north Canadian border? Like, yep, it's just terrible stuff. And then that border agent was, they ended up like stationing him on the southern border, and they ended up, and he was like, so he's like, hey, I moved to the northern panhandle of Idaho as a border patrol agent to work on the northern border, not to be shipped down to the southern border, every for 2 weeks a month. So for 2 or 3 weeks of every month, they would just fly him to the southern border to deal with the crisis there. So he was miserable. I don't know if he's still working there or not. I mean, he was making a ton of money as a border patrol agent, but he was like, it's not even worth it. So same with that truck driver too. He was like, this is just getting scary. So yeah, it's crazy stuff. I mean, the crazy stuff I tell you is like not on the news. It's the stuff you don't hear about. The craziest stuff that's going on right now is the stuff you do not hear about on the news, So just checking my things real quick. Yeah, so back to topping off preps. I kind of went through like, making sure that you don't get depleted in certain areas. You're staying organized. You're revisiting and maybe, doing dry runs on whatever, evacuation strategies and plans you have in place. Yeah. Yeah. Television is like a parody of the news at this point. But yeah. So charging flashlights, making sure that the gas tanks in your vehicles are topped off. Your gas cans are topped off, especially if you have a generator like we do. Our house is very much reliant on the grid. So if we lose power, we lose everything. We lose sewer, we lose water, and we lose power. So like we're fish in a barrel, really. The only thing we can actually keep going without power is heat. We have a wood stove that will keep the house warm. So but everything else is dependent on power. So when the power goes out here every winter, it goes out at least twice during the winter for usually about a day at the most, two or 3 days. But it has gotten, they've had some really bad power outages that, in certain areas. I'm not so much here, but have lasted a lot longer, like up to 2 weeks. So I don't know. That would be rough, especially if there were bad storms. So you got to make sure that your generator. Yeah, I didn't even want to use gas because we actually had a dual fuel generator, which takes gasoline and propane. And I was trying to keep it strictly propane, but the issue with propane is that it doesn't work very well in the winter, cold outside. So we have like sub-zero temps, and I have my drink outside, and it's, I just have like a 50-gallon propane tank. It just, the propane doesn't have enough kick uh, for our generator, and our house has such a huge, footprint. Like it requires so much power that we need our generator, which is it's a 12,000 watt generator. We need every bit of that 12,000 watts to run this house. And we're still having issues. So that's another thing that I'm definitely going to have to solve this summer is the generator situation, because the one thing it's not jiving with is our septic. So something's happened. I'm not sure if it's the generator or if it's the way the septic pump, like the motherboard or whatever, is situated to where it's taking on a different, like a bad like the frequencies are off, and so it's not working properly. Basically, the gist of it, our tank is not working, and a lot of people would go, well, isn't our septic is not, gravity fed like most septics. So it has kind of a long story, but it has to do with the fact that our house is close to a creek, and so like if you're close to a creek, you can't have a leach field anywhere near that creek. So our leach field has to be up on the hill behind us. So the the sewage has to be pumped, or the gray water has to be pumped up the hill, and that pump is what draws all the power and just gobbles up all the power. Um, so, anyways, it's an issue we have to resolve this summer. But there's just the generator systems. Yeah. Why is this? Hold on. Sorry. I got this phone set up to read everybody's chats, and it keeps shutting down. Huh. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so well, that's what we have to do. We have to kill the breakers. Even when I kill there's something going on with the generator, or with the way the septic system receives power. I think that it's a frequency thing. So I had an electrician come out here, and he like specializes in generators and stuff, and he was like pretty miffed about what was actually happening. So turn timeouts off. What's timeout? I don't know why this isn't working. I'm not sure how. I'll have to troubleshoot this. I swear it's like, I mean, I'm 47 years old. Am I that old yet to where I'm having to I'm having to, I don't know how to use computers anymore. Maybe that's just something that comes with age. You just get older and then your brain shuts off technologically. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, it's something I got to figure out. I wish I could like hire a YouTube specialist and get me through all this stuff, because there's so many things that so many roadblocks I'm having. There's also a lot of things I'm very like apprehensive about. So believe it or not, I'm like almost at 5,000 subscribers, and I'm just at this point right now as far like where my influence is at. It's kind of strange, but where I'm actually being approached by yeah, I'll look into it. But I'm at this point, like with my channel, where I'm starting to get approached by companies to do collaborations and sell products. And I'm just like, like the one reason why I've just been so apprehensive to partner up and do anything with anyone is I don't see other channels doing it a lot. And I feel like if there's a reason why they're not doing it, is maybe the same reason I shouldn't be doing it. And I'm just kind of nervous because I heard this actually happened to one channel, and it wasn't really well, it kind of was a collaboration, but it wasn't a collaboration for a product. But there was some channel that actually some company reached out to them and said, "Hey, we'll help your channel grow and become really successful. You know, we'll get your video content like up, and we'll do all your editing for you." Blah 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 blah. And they signed on with this company, and yeah, I'll tell you the companies that have reached out to me so far. Not those two haven't. Um, but anyways, back to the story. So this channel, I don't know how many subscribers they had, but they teamed up with this company that was going to help them grow their channel, and the somehow, and it was kind of the people whatever, but they signed some contract, and they ended up like accidentally signing over like total ownership of their channel to this company, and just totally lost their channel. They had to start all over again. So I'm a little nervous about that. I know the scams are getting more sophisticated. The more like, and maybe you guys have noticed that. I mean, I'll tell you right now, like the amount of spam calls that I get is like through the roof. The amount of spam like and scams that are coming through, uh, and I mean just like brazen scams where you have people not only calling you and trying to scam you that way, but you have people where like I'm just trying to sell some stuff on my Facebook marketplace, and I was trying to sell something locally. Like I have a camera that I'm trying to sell right now, and it's actually too much money to sell on the platform, Facebook's platform, and eBay is requiring so much money to sell stuff. Like they take like, what is it? They take like, what do they take? Like 20% of your sale. So eBay's just gotten expensive to sell on. Um, but I had this like somebody reach out, and this is a good idea for everybody to do if you're doing anything online, because the scams are just getting more sophisticated, more like diabolical and layered. So you got to be really careful, and kind of know what to look out for. But I was selling this camera online. It was local, totally local. So I'm thinking it'll be safe. Just gonna meet with somebody, and they start asking the right questions, because I always make sure like I'll go to their Facebook page to double check, to double check stuff, to see like when they became, the first thing you want to do is go to their Facebook page, see if it looks legitimate, see what their friends look like, how many friends they have, if and then most importantly, like when they joined Facebook. So if somebody's reaching out to you trying to buy something, or buy something from you or sell something to you, and you go to their Facebook page and it's like they just joined like that month, and all their friends are like from another country or something, stuff like that. It's like some pretty big red flags. Or they're just not posting anything normal. They don't have like a lot of posts. Just, some things to look out for. And usually they'll be like really generic when they're asking you about your what you're selling. So this lady was actually talking to me and asking the right questions, like, what kind of condition it's in, stuff like that. Because usually when it's a scam, they won't even ask you like what kind of condition the product's in. They're just like, hey, when can I come buy this thing? And they want to move quickly. You'll find that they're trying to move quickly. It's usually a pretty telltale sign. I'll look into that. So yeah, this lady was like, right away, it came off as weird where she was like, I can't pick it up. My daughter's going to come get it. So can I pay you through Venmo? And I'm thinking, well, I've had Venmo for a little while. Like, I think it's safe, but like, how can you get screwed on Venmo? I don't even know. Like, I haven't even been following through. There's like Venmo scams. And so, I kind of did a quick Google search, was like, what are the Venmo scams? And basically what they said, and this was the advice I took, they said, never do a transaction, like a Venmo transaction or a Cash App transaction, that's not in person. So if you're ever going to do any type of Venmo or Cash App transaction or any type of money app transaction, good rule of thumb right off the bat is you never do transactions just over the internet with somebody you don't know or you can't see. So I just put that out there with this lady because she was trying to get this transaction going through Messenger, and I just said, hey, I'm sorry, I only do transactions, because I'm trying to be polite at the same time, but at this point I'm like 90% sure it's a scam, and so I just said, yeah, I can't do Venmo transactions. I can only do Venmo transactions in person. And so then her next response pretty much told me what I was suspecting, which was she was like, oh, you don't want some stupid response like, oh, you're not interested in making money? And I was like, nope. Like, not interested in losing money, that's for sure. So I'm just gonna I'm just reading some of the comments right here that I missed. Find tips on finding water barrels. No, I don't know. I'm pretty stocked up on water barrels, and I got my water barrels from a job that I was working on. The people were just throwing them away. That was 10 years ago. Homestead Family Idaho. We are always giving our dog food scraps, especially when what the kids don't eat. She's small and has no health issues at all. Loves everything that is safe for her. Yeah. River 3 miles. Small lake 16 blocks through many water processing tanks, some distance with fence. Good rule. The Idaho Prepper. You got a shorter name I can call you. I'm Joe. I'm Joe with the Idaho Prepper channel. So, yeah. I know my wife right now is going, stop giving out so much information of yourself. I don't know. I'm not too worried about it. I mean, I am to an extent, but it's funny. I always get comments like, "Aren't you worried?" Like when I'm showing my if I'm showing like my stuff, people are like, "Now you're showing everybody, you know, what you have, and they're gonna all come to your house." And I'm like, "Well, first of all, they got to figure out where I live. Number one. Number two, like, what do I really have at the end of the day? I mean, what is somebody's really gonna risk their life to come steal freaking 4-year-old canned food and some like substandard rifles? It just looks like a lot. I got shells. Yeah, right. I mean, but people are just, they think that like there's just gold or something behind me. And I'm like, no, that's just, I mean, if I was to guess, I mean, who's going to come and steal canned food? I mean, that's like 90% of what's in here. It's like food, uh, cheap food, by the way. It's cheap food. It's just household stuff. It's just compacted in an area. But who's going to do that? Fact is, like our security, I'm way out in the middle of nowhere. Number one. Number two, anybody that comes out here is going to be passing houses that have 100,000 times more stuff than what I have. We're like one of the poorest people out in this area. Um, you know, it's like I always tell people, like, keep going up the hill. Trust me, that's like all the multimillionaires live up the street, and they're probably not even home. They're all at their house in California, so their houses are empty. But no, we got good security system here. Yeah, I mean that's the thing too, is like um we live like nobody, like if things were to get really bad, I mean, we live, like I could see the cities, like the metropolitan areas and like maybe the suburb areas getting hit. Um but I just don't see why anybody like that was scavenging, I mean the type of people are going to be roaming around, would be driving way out into the woods uh to find, on a one-way road. It'd just be dumb. It'd be a really dumb thief. So just reading the comments, sorry. I'm like, oh, you were asking her. Yeah, that's funny. Jane, please save a life. Adopt an animal today. Uh I kept thinking that was like, that wasn't, I didn't realize that was your name. That's like your whole YouTube channel name. I kept thinking you were like, it was an advertisement. Yeah, we've all rescue dogs. They're expensive. The last rescue dog, well, the one rescue dog we have, she's a good dog. She's getting old, but the last rescue dog I had, he was a little Boston Terrier, and he had dry eye, he had glaucoma, and a heart murmur, and I like maxed out my credit cards trying to save that dog's eye. And then he somehow lost his other eye. I don't know what happened. I was at work. I came home and somehow I don't know what happened, but somehow he punctured his other eye and it was really painful. And I'm thinking, well, now he's blind. He's sick. He had something else. He had the heart murmur, he had the glaucoma, the dry eye. So it was like 3 different ointments I had to put in his eye like every 3 or 4 hours. And then there was something else going on. He probably had like some type of like a liver dysfunction or something. Anyway, so it was a hard day putting him down, and it was probably one of the worst days. Well, it wasn't the worst day of my life. It was pretty close, but there were the reason why it was I would say it was the worst day is because I had so many terrible things going on this one day when I had to put my dog down. And it was like kind of the end of this 5-year long curse that I had gone through. I'm gonna be careful about how much I disclose here, but there's just suffice to say, like there were so many things going wrong to where like it was right around the same time that I got diagnosed with my ulcerative colitis, and at that time when the doctors delivered the diagnosis, they gave me this really grim uh like you know introduction to what the situation was like. Yeah, you got this disease, it's uncurable, we don't know how to cure it, it's going to get progressively worse, you're going to have to get like these horrible like procedures and like test for cancer every like twice a year, and basically it's going to turn to cancer and you're going to die. Like that was like pretty much how they delivered my diagnosis to that. So and I'll just put it this way, that was like the least of my problems at that point in time. So so yeah, I had the just to kind of put things into uh perspective of that when I was going through. So there was like I had a lawsuit going on. I was in debt to the IRS like for 50 grand. I lost my house. It was like just everything was going wrong. And then I had to work. And I remember, so I go to, and like all I had was this dog, this shelter dog at that time. And he was sick. And I was commuting from my job. It was like an hour, it was almost a 2-hour drive to my job where I was hardly making any money, and then commuting back at night, working all night. I had 2 full-time jobs and living in my house that was getting foreclosed on. And then I had to put my dog down, and I had just finished this job where they paid me in cash, and all I had from this job was like $950 is what I got paid, and it was all the money I had in my name. It was all the money I had was this $950. The IRS was levying I was in a financial mess, and I go to put my dog down, and as I'm leaving the veterinary, the clinic, after I just put my dog down, I reach into my back pocket to get the envelope of cash. I'm like, oh yeah, my cash, and it's gone. I had like it fell out of my pocket somewhere. Yeah, it fell out of my pocket, and I'm like, oh my God, like I just lost all of my money, my dog, like my health, my house, everything. It was bad. Um, and I got to this point, like level of suffering, and I remember like getting in my truck to drive back home. It's at night, and I had like such an insurmountable amount of depression that I like kind of it was like the depression was like like overflowing, like over the brim. And I had this moment where it was like, look, you can either suffer. Yeah, it was like you can either suffer over your dog or you can suffer over the money. Like you can either mourn your dog or you can mourn losing all of your money and having no money. So I was like, I'm gonna just mourn my dog. I've screwed the money. And like that, like that feeling I had about my money being gone, like disappeared. It was totally strange. It just went away, and it was gone. And then I could kind of just focus on mourning my dog. So yeah, I'll never forget that night. But sorry, I kind of got off track there, but yeah, I don't follow the news. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like especially cable news, like there is such a thing. Yeah, there is such a thing as bad intelligence, and there are certain countries, believe it or not, I won't go into it, but that actually we used to receive intelligence from them, but they lied. It was about the intelligence they gave us so much that the intelligence was actually harmful to us. And that's almost how I see like the news. The news is like harmful intelligence. You're better off being uninformed than misinformed. And that's what you are when you the news. The news is just a joke. I mean, what do they and every once in a while I got people in my family that follow the news and believe it. Like and when I listen to them tell me about what's going on, it's like honestly, and I hate to say this because they're probably listening. It's like listening to somebody talk to you about the things that are going on in like WWF wrestling, and they believe the conflicts. Like, can and this is going to show my age real quick because I don't follow wrestling either. But it's like, it'd be literally the same as like hearing somebody go, can you believe that like Hulk Hogan, what he said to Andre the Giant, and it was like those days where like you get those people that would believe in wrestling and they believe the controversies. I just lose like 5 subscribers. I made a wrestling joke. uh Let me read. I'm gonna read that real quick. Hang on one sec. Joe, so sorry. You sure were tested and are still saying, I just want to save them all. Future, turn it over to him. Yes, love is way more VIP than money. Negotiate with a shelter vet. I thought about that a few times. Was like having like a buying like a piece of land and like just devoting it to like rescue animals, like shelters that were overflowing. Be kind of cool. Maybe someday when I retire, I'll buy like 30 acres and build a bunch of parks or something for homes for shelter animals. They're easier to deal with than shelter people because I was in that industry for a long time and used to shelter people. That's tough. Sheltering animals is a lot easier. I can tell you that. But yeah, as far as the politics, I mean, the stuff that you find on the news is just like it's like bad intel. And my feeling is like I mean, I kind of just before I did this live feed tonight, I just kind of browsed through the news, like a couple news channels, and just kind of went on Google and typed in some things to kind of see what was going on, topics, and it's like tabloid garbage. There's just like talking about Joe Biden falling and Hunter Biden's penis, and I mean, what the hell is going on? Like, really, this is our news? Cocaine in the White House? Like, this is just tabloid stuff that you read at the in the grocery line. So I don't know how people, and to me, it's just total diversion. It's obfuscation. And if anything, to me, that's like a bad sign because they're trying to keep you distracted from something that is probably getting ready to go. So that's always my feeling. What I found, I've been prepping, and when I say prepping, like I've been prepping and I've been following the politics, and I've been kind of keeping tabs on, like keeping very close tabs on the economy since 2011. And my wake up calls, like when I won't get into it, but when I lost my house and I had I'll just say I had a very long and ugly relationships with the banks, with the banking system, and I learned a lot about who they actually are. Yeah, I got a lot of med kits. I got this med kit, and I got this one, and I got this one, and I got this one, and I got this one. I got a lot. So yeah, I sell a lot of these online. That's why I have so many. But I got to figure out a different selling platform for those, because eBay is just like killing me. They take way too big of a cut. It's just, and not because I'm like losing money, but it's like I can't. I mean, to make any money, just enough money to replenish the product, and maybe make a tiny bit of profit, and then I got to allow for shipping and all that. It's just like the price is just, it's almost like not reasonable, you know, for the consumer. And I'm like, I'm almost having to charge more than it's worth because eBay is just taking so much. So it's hard to sell stuff on eBay if you're like trying to make a living off of it. I think eBay is just for like selling stuff you're just trying to get rid of. Yeah, so cable news, just like controlled opposition. An Amazon store. So yeah, I have an Amazon. That's kind of another thing I got to figure out. I have a Amazon affiliate link, like an affiliate account. So sometimes like I'll do videos and I'll put the items that I, you know, show on my videos on the in the description. And I think I haven't even made like $100 from that, like the whole year I've had, or I probably had it for like 8 months or so. But some of the weird thing that's going on with the Amazon, my affiliate account, is that I have to like register like my tax information for Canada or something. It was kind of strange. I don't know, but I have to like, but they're not paying me. I'm not getting, like, I've already reached the payment threshold where they should have sent me a payment, and they have not sent me a payment yet. So I don't know what's going on with that. Again, it's just like another a thing that I'm gonna have to figure out. This is like, it's such a learning curve, like trying to figure out all this social media marketing, and this is just not me. Like, I'm a painting contractor, you know, I know how to like paint houses, and that's about it. And prep. So I don't know. There was like one kid I know, like locally, that actually has a YouTube channel, but it's not very success. I don't think he's that good. I asked him some questions. He didn't really have a lot of answers for me. But as far as the Amazon store, I have to have 10,000 subscribers before I can open up a Amazon store. So, and that's yeah, that's a requirement from Amazon. Yeah, so so back to that, as far as doing collaborations with these different companies. So the first company that approached me was like a water filtration company, and they were just trying to get me. And this was like a while back when I had like 1,000 subscribers, and they just wanted me to, you know, do a video on like one of those straw filters, and it sounded kind of weird, sounded kind of foreign, so I just didn't pay attention to it. And then the second one was for what was it for? It was for like an it was like an EMP protector for your vehicle or for your electrical panel. Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Crypto Rick. Smash that button. Hit the notification bell. Subscribe to the channel. It does help. It'd be nice to it would be nice to be able to make this like my full-time thing, because my body is wearing out. The one thing with like painting, like my knee, I have a really bad knee. Suture kits. I got a suture kit. You know what I want is like a little stapler kit. I've seen some really good suturing products, by the way, that are a lot less invasive, because like my son, he's so accident prone, and he's always hitting his head and hitting his face and splitting open his eye. And the one time I still feel so bad, when he was like 4 years old, and he fell and hit the chair. He slid on our floor and hit his chair and split his eyebrow. And we like tried to like squeeze the cut together and put some glue, and it did not work. And the glue just went into his cut, and it burned the daylights out of him. He was so upset. I felt so bad trying to fix that ourselves. And so eventually we had to, I think we just put like a, you know, one of those butterfly band-aids. It did okay, and kind of, because it wasn't that big of a cut. But I don't know. He probably could have used stitches, but now he's got like a cool scar on his eyebrow that I'm super envious of. So he's looking pretty cool with his like all of his battle wounds. But I was looking into it. So with kids, when little kids get cut, because their skin is so thin, it's really difficult. They usually can't suture it, and so they have to use glue. But it's a special type of glue that you can't just get over the counter. I mean, what do they call it? Over the counter? Under the counter? You can't just get it. You can't just pick it up at a store. You have to get, you know, only professionals have it. And that's how we fixed his last wound that he got like right here. But there are these, I started looking into it, and they do have these like band-aids that you put. So if you have like a cut on your head or wherever, they have these band-aids that you can put over the cut. They're clear, and they have these little like kind of like sutures. They're just like little pull strings or something, and you just pull it tight, and it pulls the bandage together and then seals. So it basically, it stitches, it closes the wound with just like a band-aid. But they're a little pricey, but totally worth it. I don't know. So I'll probably look into getting some of those. So yeah, it's one of the things that kind of concerns me the most. A lot of people don't talk about it that much, is what happens. Like, I mean, if we end up in a, you know, if our country or economy collapses and the medical industry, medical industry would take a hit. Because if you could imagine, we have so many people like freeloading off the medical system right now, and we can barely support those people. Imagine what would happen if middle America and you know, collapsed, and all of a sudden the people who've been paying, the taxes on it, all of a sudden like, okay, well, we don't make any money, we need free healthcare. And then the healthcare systems just would get overrun, with not only like just people, but it'd be like people that are not paying into the system. Yeah. And the medical system is, the people that they're putting in there are totally unqualified, because they're just selecting people based on race or whatever rather than merit. Big ones, major injury. Yeah, I've seen the staple ones. I've been interested in maybe getting one of those staplers and then just practicing with it. But mainly it's like, I just think with like, especially if you have little kids, their skin is just, it's so thin and delicate that even like expert people, medical professionals that are experts at stitching have issues with stitching kids because their skin is so thin. And that's a lot of times they have to use their glue, which only they have access to. And if you don't have that, like the only way you can close a wound like on a kid is with those special band-aids. And that's it. You can't do staples, you can't do sutures. It's just way too hard. So hopefully we'll never get to that point. One of the other things that I bought, but this actually ties into the different companies that have been reaching out to me to do collaborations, is like, I have a Jace medical kit, and I'm sure some of you guys have seen these, but it's just basically a kit that contains all the antibiotics that you could possibly need for any type of infection, or virus or whatever. And then it comes with these little handy guidebooks, and it just gives you like a general outline of like which antibiotic treats what kind of condition. So yeah, we have amoxicillin, ciprofloxacin. I'm gonna hatchet these names, so I'm not even gonna try, but that's about the only ones I could pronounce. Doxycycline. Anyway, so it tells you with the milligrams of each one, and then it tells you, kind of tells you for what they treat. So for instance, doxycycline, it's used to treat anthrax, bites from an animal or a human, the plague, which is bioterror, same as anthrax, skin infections, tetanus, and tularemia. So it's a really good, just having this book alone is actually pretty beneficial. So the nitrofurantoin, which is another antibiotic that's in this kit, it's used to treat urinary tract infections if you have a really severe one. So anyways, really cool. But again, this is actually one of the companies that reached out to me, and I didn't even know this until they reached out, but there's actually a few companies other than Jace that provide this same kit. So I guess there's more doctors out there that are trying to cash in on the prepper market. But one of these kits is actually it's like close to $200, and it was crazy because the night I bought this, I remember I did not have that kind of money to be spending, and I totally bought it on a whim, and like the next day I was like, I can't believe I bought that kit. I don't know what got into me. And then I started thinking maybe it was like God saying like I need it, because I don't know why I pulled the trigger on that and bought that kit. But anyways, that was one of the companies. Wow, $450. Yeah, mine was just under, it was just a little over 200, I think. But I had another company. Yeah, I think they will. I think a lot of these companies, they're starting to actually prescribe other medications that you might be on. Yeah. So yeah, somebody had like it was a promotional thing. But anyways, but yeah, a lot of these doctors are starting to prescribe. So if you have other condition like medications that you're on, like blood thinners, and you just tell them they'll give you a stockpile of whatever medication you're on. So I don't know how they can do it. It's kind of strange. Like my mom's like a nurse. She's been a nurse. She's retired now, but she's a nurse her whole life. And she's like, I showed her this kit. She's like, how the hell are they like doing that? Because if you wanted a stockpile before, like the old days, like if you wanted a stockpile of antibiotics, you'd have to go in there and like prove to your doctor why you needed them. And like usually it was like you had to, for somebody that was going overseas and thought that they might come in contact with, dysentery or something, and so they wanted to have the antibiotics on hand in case that happened. So they're going to a certain area like, South America, where that might be an issue. Hold on one second. My battery's getting low. So where is my charger? Oh, it's in my truck. And see, I'm having this conversation. I was charging my battery chargers, but I lost a lot of my. If you want to see what my organizational situation looks on this side, I'll show you. Here I am. I got my charging station right here. This is like a scanner right here. Got a map up there. But yeah, I usually just charge all my stuff right here. Charge my my two-way radios and stuff. So let's see. I got these. There's little flies coming in here. I don't know where these flies are coming from. Mice and flies. Sorry, I'm just reading out this list real quick. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. So, yeah, as far as just topping off your preps, I mean, you just making sure your equipment is running good, running tests. The other thing I got to do is finish is get more firewood this year, because last year we went through quite a bit, and so I want to make sure we have enough on stock. So one of the things that I was going to talk about, I didn't mention, I was planning on it, was I did this job recently, and this is kind of a prepping related thing. So there was a house down the street from me, and these people had bought this house about 2 years ago, and then all of a sudden it was like a couple, husband and wife, bought this house, and then all of a sudden the lady like disappeared, and her husband was at the house by himself. And so then I kind of got the scoop from another neighbor that like the man had started drinking, and then it was just got really ugly, and so she left and went back to, I don't know, I guess she had somewhere to live in California or something, but she was like a dispatcher for a police department. Anyway, so the marriage got dissolved. She came. I guess he said like, I guess he told her, he said, you can have everything, just let me live in the house rent free or whatever for a year. And so she agreed to that. Anyways, a few months ago, the year was up. She comes back, he leaves, and just as he said, like he left everything. So there were motorcycles, snowmobiles, wood splitters, like tons of like tools, snap-on tools, saws, table saws, like camping gear like you wouldn't believe, and it was like all pretty high end stuff. And so my neighbor tells me that, hey, this lady, she's moving, she needs a painter, she needs somebody to come in and paint the house. So I head over there, and I get there, and she's like, take anything you want from this house. She goes, I need to move on with my life. uh I don't care, like, you can have anything. Sorry. I don't know why this uh sorry you guys, I'm just trying to get the comments here, and I'm trying to read them from my phone, and there's something in the way. Joe, just giving ideas. We could probably make a list. Everyone post his link in comments to other sites. Prepper Heaven. Yes, yeah, it was Prepper Heaven. So, anyways, I get to this house, and my friend Braden, who actually does a lot of like yard work and stuff for this lady, he does yard work for a lot of people in the neighborhood. So he's already there, and his truck is like loaded up with stuff. And I'm like, and so I get there, and his truck is like loaded up with stuff, tools. I mean, like snap-on toolboxes, like you name it. It was crazy. And uh and um she's like signing over a dirt bike, like she's like, right, signing over the pink slip to, just giving him a dirt bike. And I'm like, holy, and I get there, and it's like there isn't much left. My friend had already got everything. But there were two. The first thing I see, well, first of all, she was like, you can have any tools. So there were a lot of tools. So I got like there was like a nice 4-foot ladder, some like drywall tools. Um, and then I ended up, there was some other stuff I got. Oh, there was two fishing poles that I saw, and I'm like, you giving those away? And she's like, yep, take it. And she was like, either she's like, if you don't take it, I'm throwing it in the trash. That was her attitude. So I was like, well, then I mean, not gonna let it go in the trash can. And so there was like two fishing poles. One was a fluger. It was a fluger rod and reel combo, and the other one was a Daiwa rod and reel combo. Like it was like a $250 rod and reel setup. Yeah, he didn't save anything. It was funny, and he was being greedy. He was like, what he was like in the like. By the time I got there, he was just like in a like a greedy. It was kind of a weird situation, but he was like almost like in a frenzy, kind of like, I'm gonna take it all. Kind of a situation. But and there were two people because she sold some stuff, because she had some really nice stuff, like the snowmobile. It was like a $7,000 snowmobile or $8,000 snowmobile. So that she sold. And then there were like two ATVs that were like brand new, and those were selling. She also had a cargo trailer, like a new cargo trailer, that she sold. And then but everything else was like up for grabs. So like I ended up, what did I do? So the free stuff that I got, it wasn't like that huge, but it was some prepping stuff. So one of the things I got that she had was like it was a Sawyer mini water filter. So I always wanted one of these. This thing's like brand new, never used. So I grabbed that, and and then those two really nice rod and reel combos. And then I ended up doing a couple days because I needed a wood splitter, and she had a brand new 27-ton wood splitter. And so I did like 2 days of, I gave her like 2 days of touch up paint. Like I worked at her house for 2 days um, in exchange for the wood splitter. So just bartered her with that there. But yeah, it was pretty insane. But one of those things I will say, like with my industry, I do run across that kind of stuff sometimes. Where, and especially like recently, not so much with like people giving free stuff away, but where the people are selling, they're flipping, they need the house painted so they can get it up on the market. And every so often, you will run into what happens is that because I'm the painter, I'm usually the first one in, uh, because that's all they're doing. Like, let's just get some paint on this thing and then get it listed. And it's a lot of times it's usually because something didn't go as planned and the people are having to change things, and as a result, they're just getting rid of stuff and they need stuff gone and quickly, and they're just throwing a lot of stuff away. So every once in a while I run into situations like that. Nothing that crazy where she was literally just giving everything away, huge items. um Pretty close though. Last summer it was actually a lady where she was moving, um and it was the same kind of the similar situation where she had got divorced with her husband. But in that situation it was crazy because the husband had actually tried to murder her, and he like shot at her, and he went to prison, or he went to jail, and he was in jail. And she was just trying to spend and get like everything spent and done before he got out of jail, because she was thinking that he might beat the rap and then come back and want all of his stuff. So she was just like trying to basically spend all their money and get rid of everything so that by the time he got out, like she was long gone and all the money was long gone. That was a crazy situation. But again, it was like I ended up, she was like, "Here, have stuff." I mean, there was so much stuff there, um, and so I got some cool stuff that way. But um, yeah, I mean, the only other topic I really had was I was going to talk a little bit about our chickens. So we have 21. We have 21 chickens. One isn't laying anymore. She's old, but we're just keeping her. Typically you're supposed to cull your chickens, which means kill your chickens once they stop laying. But I just didn't have the heart. I mean, there's just one, doesn't matter. So we're keeping her, even though she's not laying any eggs anymore. And when they get that old, you can't really eat them, I don't think. I mean, technically, I think you could, but I'm not going to eat an old chicken. So, but we have 20 chickens laying right now. So we're getting almost 20 eggs a day at this point. We're getting close. Yeah, they're yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, when I get with these chickens, I mean, there's no way I'm gonna be feeding more than five. I think is going to be my cutoff line. Like, I'm not going to be feeding more than five chickens that aren't delivering anything. Hold on, I'm going to read your comment real quick. But yeah, we're up to so we're getting a lot of eggs right now, which is good. I'm trying to work the numbers because I think we're going to sell most of those eggs. Um, you know, we're going to sell most of those eggs, and we can get good money for the eggs. So we just started free ranging the young chickens today. Like I said, I mean, because we added 17 to the flock. There were only 4 left. So we added 17 to the flock. They're almost all the new ones are almost all laying right now. Um, and so we just started. We've had them in the cage for quite a while. And today was the first day we got them used to free ranging. So I'm gonna try free ranging them. The only downside to free ranging is it does like bring in predators. So I don't free range my chickens every day. One, they just start going all over the property, and then they start pooping like all over our deck and all over the place, and it gets a little bad just in that regard. So we only free range them like I don't know, 3 days out of the week, and then the rest of the time they're on grain like feed. So and then when the winter comes, they're strictly grain diet, which means I'm going to be having to buy a ton of food throughout the winter. And so hopefully I'm going to try to make it so that all the eggs that we can sell throughout the summer, I'm going to, save that money and then put it all into their food for the winter and buy up all their food, stupid mosquitoes, for the winter. And that way I don't have to worry about there being more like chicken food shortages like last year. Get a rooster, huh? I'm letting her retire in peace. And it's funny is like if I was gonna let one chicken go, it would have been her, and somehow she survived all the other chickens. Because I got her, somebody was moving and they gave me this is like the first time when we first got chickens, like 4 or 5 years ago. It was a lady that was moving and she had too many chickens, and so she was giving them away, and that's when I ended up with, I think we started out with like 7 chickens or something, but she's the one last chicken we have left from the original flock. Was the last chicken I thought would survive because she was always molting and she never had feathers on her head and she just looked like she was dying. And then all of a sudden, like all of her feathers came back on her head and she looked like a normal bird again. And she was the last one I thought would survive, and she survived. And she's like a hard one to I don't think I think the only time I picked her up was the day I got her, and I picked, somehow I was able to catch her and bring her home, and that was the last time I ever touched that chicken. She's like a hard one to catch. She doesn't let anybody touch her. And what's so funny is for some reason my son, who's like terrified of like everything, he's especially like he's terrified of dogs and everything. um he loves the chickens, like, and he's like become this chicken whisperer. And I tell you, I was out tonight, before I started the live feed, I was trying to wrestle the last few chickens that were free ranging and get them back into the coop, so I could start the show. And I couldn't catch like these chickens. There was like 3 chickens left out, and I could not get these chickens were not letting me get anywhere near them. And so I called my son out. He's 5 years old, and he comes right over to this chicken who wouldn't let me get anywhere near it, and she just squats for him. Because what chickens will actually want to be picked up is they'll kind of squat, put their wings out, and like allow you to pick them up. And these immediately submitted for him. It was really strange. Yeah, my son is the chicken whisperer. Crypto Rick says old birds like fresh food. That's the difference. Young birds eat wherever old birds are. Picky and smart like dogs. Feed them good and they will be good to you. Yep. Yeah, so we got a lot of vegetation right now. They're happy. I got some happy chickens. That's for sure. And they like the kids. Like at first, we're always telling the kid, telling my son and to our kids to leave the chickens alone because they're just constantly like playing with them, like all day, every day. And we just gave up. Like whatever. If the chickens don't want to be played with, they'll run away, and they don't. Like the chickens actually like the kids. It's so funny. They like the chick. I don't know what it is because they're closer to their height or something, but they're just, these chickens are not afraid of my kids. And they're really, we have some really beautiful chickens this year. So we have some ones that are like gold. They're like beautiful. So yep, that's pretty much it. My camera, my battery on my camera is about to die, so I can't really do this show for much longer. And I've been drinking a ton of water and coffee, and so I'm gonna have to have a bathroom break anyway. So anyways, I think that's about going to do it for the show tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, if you haven't done so, make sure to hit the notification bell so you can get notified of these podcasts, or these podcasts, these live feeds before I do them, if you're interested in hearing more about them. And what else? What else? Hit the like button, subscribe. Anything else before I sign off? Fresh scraps daily with a good scratch. Call them when you feed, and the more they understand your dominance in his relationship. Yeah, yeah. I have a bag of mealworms that I'll shake, and I'll get some of them in. The younger ones haven't figured that out yet, but yeah, it's a good way. But all right, yeah, thank you to everybody who's here tonight. Crypto Rick for contributing the $19. I really appreciate that, man. That's huge. And to Jane, please save a life, adopt an animal today. Thank you for being on the stream and keeping things going, keeping the content going, keeping the channel alive, and everybody else on the channel. I don't know if you're still here, Ronin58, Homestead Family, Idaho, all of you. All right, think that's it. Yeah, so thank you so much for joining me, and until the next one, stay prepared.